Has sex ever felt like something you're watching yourself do rather than actually doing it and experiencing it? It's like you're there, you're trying. You might even like the person you're with, maybe you even love them, but the feeling, that real feeling, just stays out of reach. You're not numb and you're not indifferent. You want it, and yet something between the wanting and the actually feeling keeps getting lost. Most people I work with have spent years assuming that that means there's something fundamentally wrong with them, that they're too anxious, too damaged, too broken to fix. But what if it's not that? What if it's that nobody has ever worked with the part of you that actually holds the answer? That's what today's conversation's about. Hi, I'm Cyndi Darnell, sex and relationship therapist. I work online with people all over the world in all kinds of configurations, helping them talk more about sex and relationships. On this channel, we talk about intimacy, desire, and connection, honestly, and practically, and without shame. If you're new here, welcome. And if you've been here a little while, thank you so much for being part of this conversation. If anything that I share today resonates with you, please hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. I have a lot more content coming this year, and I don't want you to miss any of it. So let's begin with what actually is somatic sex therapy. The word somatic comes from the Greek word for body, soma. So somatic therapy is any therapeutic approach that brings the body into the room, not just the mind. Somatic sex therapy applies that body-based approach specifically to sexuality, to desire, to intimacy, and to pleasure. It works from a simple but profound premise that your body holds information that your mind can't always access. Experiences, especially around sex and intimacy, get stored in the nervous system, in muscle tension, and in the way we breathe, how we move, or the way that we don't move. Most of us learnt very early on in life to disconnect from our bodies when it comes to sex. We were taught, directly or indirectly, that sexual feelings were something to manage, suppress, or perhaps be ashamed of. Over time, that disconnection becomes so habitual that we stop noticing it. In my book, Sex When You Don't Feel Like It, The Truth About Mismatched Libido and Rediscovering Desire, I explore exactly how this happens and why so much of what we experience as low desire or sexual dysfunction is actually a completely understandable response to the world we grew up in. I'll link to the book in the show notes below. So somatic sex therapy gently reverses that disconnection we have been conditioned to believe is normal. Rather than asking, what do you think about sex? Somatic therapy asks, what does your body notice when you imagine yourself in an erotic encounter? What do you feel when someone touches you? What desires arise when you allow yourself to be more connected to your body? These answers are often far more revealing and actually more useful than most people expect. So how is it different from regular sex therapy or couples therapy? Now, this is an important distinction, and I want to answer it properly. Traditional sex therapy, which is a service that I also offer, is genuinely valuable. It helps people communicate or navigate mismatched libidos, work through sexual history, understand the emotional and psychological roots of anxiety or avoidance around sex, and understand the cultural, the interpersonal, the mental and emotional roots of the anxiety and avoidance that many of us experience with sex. Couples therapy does similar work at a relational level. We look at things like communication, emotional connection, patterns of conflict and repair, and so on. Now, both of these approaches work primarily from a top-down perspective. That means from the mind down into the body. We privilege and prioritize the brain and the intellect over the somatics and the feelings of the body. You gain insight, you gain new frameworks, and you get to practice new skills because you understand them, you investigate them using awareness and logic. Somatic therapy, in contrast, is a bottom-up approach, meaning we allow the intelligence of the body to guide us before we make meaning with the mind. It starts with sensation, with the body's actual lived experience right now, right here, in this moment. It doesn't bypass the mind, it just doesn't start there. Think of it this way. If you spent years learning to swim by reading about it, by studying the technique or watching videos or understanding the physics, but you never got in the water, that's what a little bit like talk therapy can feel like for some people. Somatic sex therapy, well, it gets you wet. It gets you in the water, so to speak. And importantly, it doesn't replace talk therapy, but it complements it beautifully. The insight from talk therapy, combined with the embodied experience of somatic work, can create a kind of integration that neither achieves on its own. A quick pause here. If you're finding this useful, a like really does help this content reach more people who need it. And if you want to go further with any of this, please head over to my website, cyndidarnell.com. I have online courses there that go deep into helping you understand your body, your desire, and your relationships. Whatever stage you're at, there's something there for you. I also want to point you to another video, actually right here on this channel, Sex and the Vagus Nerve, which connects beautifully to everything we're talking about today and goes deep into why the nervous system is so central to desire and pleasure. It's linked here, and again, I'll link it in the show notes. So why does somatic sex therapy even work? Here's something that neuroscience confirmed in recent years that genuinely changed the way I think about my work. And that is the relationship between your body and your brain is bidirectional, and this impacts our well-being. We used to think that information flowed one way, that the brain would send messages to the body and that was it, end of the story. But it turns out that the body is constantly sending information back up into the brain. Your posture affects your mood. Your breathing affects your anxiety. The way you hold your body and even which emotions you can access are all affected by our bodies. This means we can change our nervous system and therefore our experience of desire and pleasure, not just by changing our thoughts, but actually changing how we inhabit and use our body. This is also why trauma therapy has increasingly moved toward body-based approaches. Trauma isn't just a memory. It's a physical response that is stored in the nervous system. The body gets stuck for some people in survival mode, even long after the threat has passed. And here's the part that surprises a lot of people. You don't need an obvious trauma history for this to apply to you. For a lot of us, simply growing up in a culture, any culture, that treats sex as shameful or risky, something to be controlled, creates a kind of chronic, low-level nervous system response that keeps many of us from fully inhabiting our bodies and our erotic selves. Somatic sex therapy works within the nervous system directly, and that's why it can create change that talk therapy alone sometimes just can't reach. I want to share a story with you today about Lewis. Lewis came to see me with his girlfriend some years ago now. And on paper, everything looked fine. Respected career, loving relationship, and a life that most people would envy. But internally, Lewis was carrying something heavy. For Lewis, sex had become a form of dread. He was dealing with early ejaculations and unreliable erections. He'd avoid intimacy and make excuses. He would shut down whenever things got too close. His girlfriend had even started to believe that he'd fallen out of love with her, which he assures us wasn't true. When Lewis tried to talk about any of it, he couldn't. Slow, uncomfortable, unable to hold eye contact. And his body showed it too. He was stiff, he was guarded, like he was bracing for impact, even though nothing was coming. What Lewis didn't realize was that his body was doing exactly what he had trained it to do. Because Lewis worked in law enforcement, his entire nervous system had been finely tuned to detect threat and respond fast. A life-saving skill at work, absolutely. The problem was his body couldn't switch it off in the bedroom. vulnerability, intimacy, the exposure of being truly seen. His nervous system read all of it as danger. So it did what it knew: protect, withdraw, and shut down. Talk therapy helped Lewis understand this, and that really mattered to him. But understanding something and experiencing something different and new in your body are two entirely different things. And that's where somatic work comes in really handy. Rather than pushing for performance or trying to think his way out of the anxiety, Lewis and his girlfriend were guided through experiences where he could simply receive touch, warmth, presence, with no expectation of arousal and absolutely no pressure to respond in any particular way. No goal, no performance, just practicing what it felt like to be in his body and feel safe at the same time. Slowly, and it did take time, what had been closed and guarded began to soften. His nervous system learned that through repeated physical experience, that vulnerability in this context was not the same as danger. His body finally got the message his mind already knew. He was safe, he was wanted, and he could let himself feel it. Lewis had no obvious dramatic trauma history. What he had was something far more common: a lifetime of learning that sensitivity was weakness and vulnerability was a liability. His body actually had been a perfect student. Somatic sex therapy gave his body the chance to learn something new. So who else is somatic sex therapy for? The honest answer is anyone who feels somehow disconnected from their body, who feels a gap between what they're thinking, what they're feeling, and what their body is doing. That might look like a low or absent libido with no particular explanation, difficulty staying present during sex, a wandering mind going through the motions, anxiety about performance, about how your body looks, or whether you're doing it right. It might be feeling numb or indifferent about intimacy, when a part of you genuinely wishes you felt more. Maybe there's pain during sex without a clear medical cause, or a deep-seated shame around your sexuality, maybe stemming from religion or culture or family or past experiences. It's also particularly valuable for people who have survived sexual trauma, that the body needs to go gently and safely to relearn what it means to feel pleasure without a threat. And it's not only for individuals. Couples also find that somatic approaches can often open up dimensions of connection that years of conversation alone maybe never quite reach. I work with people in all kinds of relationship configurations: monogamous, non-monogamous, partnered, single, and across every gender and orientation. In my experience, the body's wisdom is available to us. It just needs the right conditions to emerge. It's not a quick fix, though. It asks something of you: a willingness to slow down, to pay attention, to stay curious about what your body is trying to say to you. And for many people, it's transformative in a way that nothing else has been. We spend so much of our lives just living from the neck up, analyzing, planning, judging, worrying, and meanwhile our bodies, which carry so much of our history, our longing, our capacity for joy, are quietly just waiting to be listened to. Somatic sex therapy is, at its core, about learning that language, translating what your body has been trying to say for years, and creating the conditions, internally and externally, where desire and pleasure can actually arise. Not because you've fixed something that was broken, but because you've come home to a part of yourself that was always there. If you want to go deeper with any of this, I have two places to point you. My book, Sex When You Don't Feel Like It: The Truth About Mismatched Libido and Rediscovering Desire, is available now. Again, as a reminder, it's linked in the show notes. And if reading is not your thing, head on over to my website, cyndidarnell.com, where I have online courses that go deep into understanding your body, your relationships, your desire, wherever you are starting from. I also offer online consultations via video just like this with people all over the world. And don't forget to check out the sex and the vagus nerve video. It's the perfect companion to what we've been talking about today. If this was useful, please like this video. It genuinely helps more people find it. And subscribe if you haven't already. I have a lot more about relationships, intimacy, connection, and pleasure coming for you this year. Take care of yourselves and take care of your body. They're doing their best right now.